You're listening to the 2026 Royal Norfolk Show Innovation Hub podcast. To find out more about the topics being discussed here, email ua.innovation@ua.ac.uk. Thanks for listening. Could you briefly introduce yourself and explain what you do at the Sainsbury Laboratory?
Hi, I'm Agnieszka Witek. I'm Dr. Agnieszka Witek. I'm a postdoctoral researcher, which means I've completed my PhD and I work independently now to a degree. So at the Sainsbury Laboratory, I'm running a project that's known under the name Potato Plus. And the main goal of this project is to upgrade fantastic existing potato varieties to be even more fantastic in a way that they resist the common potato diseases and spare farmers disease control as it's done now, or at least some of it. So spare farmers spraying disease control products on their crops.
What first inspired you to work in plant science and to develop disease-resistant crops?
At first, I think it was by elimination of any other branches of biology. After some university courses, I knew I definitely don't want to work in animal science. And that left me, or I didn't want to do medicine. So that left me with plants or microorganisms. And plants happen to be nice and green and very important for us. So I think that's how it ended. So I've never dreamed, I think, that I'm going to work in such an advanced field as genetic engineering of plants. I remember when I was a young child, I read in a magazine that maybe the children of my generation will one day become something that they called gen-engineers. So engineers working with genes. So I thought, yeah, something very remote, some remote possibility. The illustration with that was a man with big scissors cutting into double helix. So yeah, remote possibility. And yet here I am. It's not my children's generation. It's my generation. And that represents fantastic progress. And I'm proud to be part of it.
What problem are you seeking to address with the Piper Plus project?
Piper Plus project has developed on the basis of a research that we've run at the Sainsbury Laboratory for many years now. So to take apart plant immune system, plants have immune system just like us. Maybe the components are sometimes different, but the main principle is the same. It's a cascade of events that starts with recognition of the pathogen or disease that's coming upon the organism. And then a cascade of signals rolls down to initiate the the internal defenses of the organism. And once that recognition happens, normally the organism should be able to deal with the disease. When there is no recognition, that's where there is a problem. And many of our modern crops were not necessarily bred with disease resistance in mind. The yield, the shape of plants, the ease of working with them in the field were the main directions of the breeding. Of course, breeding for disease resistance also happened, but normally I would say yield and availability were the first goal. Potato late blight, that's the Irish famine disease. Everybody heard of it. And it was catastrophic in the 1800s. It's still very much present and pressuring the farmers in the 2000s years. Another two diseases that we are addressing by the Piper Plus project is two viral diseases, potato virus Y and potato leaf rot virus, and those are the very problems that force us to grow seed potatoes in Scotland.
Why is late blight still such a major challenge for potato farmers today?
Late blight, which we often associate with the Irish potato famine in the 19th century, is still a major problem. We are better off than our ancestors because we have chemical controls that we can apply and that way prevent the disease to destroy our crops. The problem with those, they are expensive. They have to be applied regularly, basically every week during the growing season. And also, some of those are being withdrawn, either for the reason of late blight pathogen developing resistance to them, or for the reason that we now recognize that some of them are not as benign for the environment and for humans and for the animal world as we might have previously thought.
How do disease-resistant potatoes help produce pesticide and support sustainable farming?
Once you have potatoes that are resisting such a prevalent disease as potato late blight, you can rethink your spraying programs. Of course, there are some other diseases remaining, like Alternaria, and you still have to protect against them. We're trying to find something to prevent that disease as well, and it's going well. But you can rethink your regimes. You can maybe spread apart the spraying. You can spray much fewer times in the season. You cannot use certain chemicals that are necessary to prevent late blight. You can maybe turn to other chemicals. The ultimate goal would be to avoid spraying fungicides altogether eventually, and I hope we can achieve that.
What role does climate change play in the spread of potato diseases such as late blight?
Climate change facilitates spreading the diseases. One big facilitator that we already had developed in the past was the more common transport of goods, and now places which previously would receive some sort of inoculum of the disease, having not had the conditions for that disease to develop, that would be a dead end. However, now we don't know where's up, where's down with the climate. We get massive heat waves in the UK. We get very low temperatures in places where normally those temperatures weren't going that low. We get the rainfall all over the place, the patterns disturbed. The diseases may settle down in unexpected places, in places where previously weren't expecting them to settle. And a good example is bacterial wilt, which is a potato, tomato, and several other species disease, which is prevalent in the tropical and subtropical conditions in the countries that have high rainfall, in the countries that have high temperature at the same time. This is quite likely. By the way, we're running a project with our colleagues in Kenya, which is aimed at addressing bacterial wilt, and we have quite a nice outcome of this project already. They're testing potential varieties in the field trials in Kenya and Rwanda.
What has been the most exciting breakthrough in your research so far?
I would say it's a little bit harder to get proper breakthroughs when you don't do fundamental science, as in discovery-led science. Although I was part of discovery-led projects in the past, which led to discovering of all those nice receptors that recognize the disease and can be moved to potato from its close relatives. So I guess that was very satisfying when we actually had something that we can use. But what excites me most is, I guess, that we can move this lab-made discoveries into the practical use, and that's enough for any breakthrough. And when I first saw my surviving plants, when all the other regular potatoes around them were on their last legs, that feeling is fantastic. And also one thing that gave us hope that we can actually finally deliver these discoveries in a tangible form to British farmers was the Precision Breeding Act, which was like a breath of fresh air in the slightly stale legislation around these things. And we are hoping that based on that, we'll be able to maybe put some proper varieties on the market around 2030.
If your research succeeds on a larger scale, what impact will it have on farming and global food security in the future?
So we are hoping that European Union will soon adapt their equivalent legislation, which is called NGT, New Genetic Technologies, and that opens up the door to maybe putting something on the EU markets as well. I hope that the acceptance, that the public response to those will be as we would dream of. So whatever, give me that. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to eat it. It's not going to harm me. It does nothing else but recognize the disease apart from what regular potato does. So that's our biggest wish, to open up the door to innovation like that, which is only meant to help the consumers. We are also consumers. We would also like to be the consumers of this. We are not doing that for everybody else but us. We're doing that for ourselves and our children as well.
You've been listening to the 2026 Royal Norfolk Shore Innovation Hub podcast. To find out more about the topics being discussed here, email ua.innovation@ua.ac.uk. Thanks for listening.